All right. Hi, folks. This is how decentralization dies, but Bitcoin survives. Some background on me. I was an early security engineer at Gemini. I became chief security officer of a Bitcoin miner called Layer 1. Now I'm working on something new. So historically, decentralization has never been an end state. Historically, if you look at history, decentralization has always followed the pattern of being a protest seeking a concession. Now, what that means is there's some centralized body we're protesting, and when that centralized body makes the concession we want, the protest starts to end. We saw that in music. So between 1999 and 2002, record labels didn't make popular music available online. If you go to a website, they might have Britney Spears, they might have the Backstreet Boys, but they probably don't have both, and there were all kinds of restrictions. So what happened? Because the centralized body didn't provide us what we wanted, we created Napster. Napster was created in 1999. Now there was only 150,000 users in 1999, but this still taught us how to protest. After Napster was the Nutella protocol, which is behind LimeWire, and these protests grew and grew and grew in the absence of music being available online. So as these protests grew, the music industry took note. They saw how much money they were losing, so they tried to make some kind of concession. They said, we're now spending tens of millions of dollars to launch this product called Press Play to provide a legitimate response to get market share back. So the protest was growing, and they came up with Press Play to try to get users back from LimeWire and Napster into their control again. This was Press Play. For $9.95 a month, you could stream a song 300 times, you couldn't burn it once, and you could download it 30 times. You couldn't download more than 2 songs from the same artist, and there was one manager who calculated you needed to download 4 songs for their artist to earn even 1 penny. It was a joke. Then they came up with MusicNet. Similar concept, similar problems. Every download expired after 30 days. Every time you listened to a song, it counted against your stream total. So these concessions weren't working, they weren't cutting it. So the protests kept growing and growing and growing. LimeWire kept growing, BitTorrent was on the scene. The music executives had no choice but to make a real concession. And that concession was 99-cent music on the iTunes store. Steve Jobs came in and pistol whipped all the music executives and said, you're doing 99 cents for every single song in history in this one catalog called the iTunes store. And if you look at this quote, it proves that the iTunes store only came about because of the protests that were decentralization. Decentralization created this concession. So there was nothing going on except for free downloads at the time, so they had to do 99-cent music. Remember that kind of language because it comes up again. So again, the pattern is this. Protest is decentralization. It yields some concession. In the form of Napster and LimeWire, it brought us iTunes. Now, BitTorrent came on the scene, and it started growing. The iTunes store quelled LimeWire and Napster, sure, but our relationship with music changed. Instead of wanting to own every song in an MP3, we wanted instant access to every song. We wanted it to be available to us 24/7. So the protests started growing again. BitTorrent started growing for music downloads. What did it yield us? We all have it on our iPhones. If you looked at the data, you could see this pattern happen again. In 2008, Spotify launched in Europe, but it took until 2011 for it to launch in the US. The reason for this was that record labels were okay with making licensing deals with Rhapsody and MySpace Music because those platforms required you to pay up front to listen to anything. Spotify was problematic for them because it had a freemium model. You could just download Spotify and start listening to everything. You only have to listen to ads every now and then. You could see them resisting this as well. Free streaming services are clearly not a net positive for this industry. The freemium model is not the kind of approach to business that we'll be supporting in the future. But again, time is a flat circle. The same language came up. Daniel Ek said, yeah, Spotify doesn't generate the same amount of revenue as paid for downloads, but without it, you're losing even more to pirates. It's the same exact language that we had from the iTunes store. At the time, you could only buy DRM music tracks for 99 cents. So what was a revolution back then, is now a reason to protest. At the same time, I could steal a file which cost $0. Once again, the protest that was BitTorrent led to the concession that was Spotify. Spotify does not exist without BitTorrent. You can see the exact same language. If you dig through the Internet archives, as I have, you'll see this protest concession language existing. You can see this happening in the movie industry as well. Now, I don't know how many of you remember, how many of everyone in the crowd here remembers the life cycle of a movie before it got to Netflix. It would start in theaters, hit DVD, pay-per-view, 15 months exclusive rights on premium channels, ad-driven channels, and after 11 years, it made its way to Netflix. It took 11 years for a movie to be available online. So that means it's 2011 right now, 2021 right now, we'd just be getting Iron Man 2 on Netflix if we follow this same model. Because of this, BitTorrent grew rampant for movie downloads. And what this forced was Starz Entertainment to come to the table with Netflix to come to a deal where Netflix could stream premium titles, Spider-Man 3, Superbad. This made Netflix's user numbers swell from 9 million to 25 million. And this only happened because of decentralization. Decentralization brought Starz to the table to give the people what they really wanted, which was a concession. And what we saw, because of this deal, Netflix overtook BitTorrent in traffic in North America. Once again, protest leads to a concession, leads to the protest dying down. So there's predictive value here for cryptocurrencies. If you extrapolate this, you can have some really good insights as to what we're doing in the cryptocurrency space. A cryptocurrency is a decentralization play just like any other. It's a protest seeking a concession. So the questions are, what are we protesting, and what do the concessions look like? An easy example is to look at, for example, a decentralized exchange. These are very popular right now, and people are willing to pay $100, $200 to trade a Chuck E. Cheese token with a Dave & Buster's token with a pizza. But why are they doing that? They're doing that because there's the absence of something from the centralized world again. So what would the concession be to get DEXs no longer being popular? For example, 24/7 trading, instant asset listing. If that concession is made, which it will be made, the use of DEXs will go down. The protest will go down. We have a real-life example from the cryptocurrency space. In 2018, when Facebook proposed Libra, they came to the table with this crazy ambitious idea. They said, here's Libra, it's non-pegged, it's pegged to kind of a basket of currencies, it's global, it's got no peer-to-peer restrictions, and we want you to do it. The problem was, they came to the negotiating table way too early. Bitcoin was 200 billion in market cap around this time. That was like pitching Spotify to music execs back in the year 2001 when they were coming out with MusicNet and PressPlay. It just was not going to happen. The protest hadn't grown large enough for this concession to be warranted. So here's kind of the summary. When you look at the cryptocurrency space and you see the market caps around you, if demand is coming from anything other than being completely trustless, it will, by definition, be conceded away. The centralized world will have no choice but to make a concession to end the protest and get that market share back. When they have the choice of adapt or die, they have always chosen adapt. Knowing this, a lot of these cryptocurrencies that you see, they're not going to last forever. They're going to inspire change, but their market caps won't be there forever. But what about Bitcoin? Why do we put up with Bitcoin? Why do we go through the digital scavenger hunt called mining? Bitcoin is unique in that every Bitcoiner, our core demand comes from the trustlessness, literally nothing else. It is, in fact, a digital rock. It's not Turing complete. We can send it, we can store it. But why we're here is because there's no concession the government can make to prove they won't print money, to prove they won't seize our money. Bitcoin is its own concession. So while the concessions reverberate throughout this industry and capture all the market share back from everything doesn't need to be decentralized, Bitcoiners can rest assured that we're here for the right reasons, and there's no concession that could affect Bitcoin like it could affect every other cryptocurrency, which is really just a feature that's missing currently from the legacy financial world. But in this protest concession model, the concessions will be made, all these features from all these cryptocurrencies will be captured by legacy institutions, and Bitcoin, whose demand is purely from decentralization, will never ever have its market cap affected. That's all. Thanks a lot. I'll be around.